Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Laura Granby Hill. I run all of our events and webinars here at Treasure Data, and I'm very excited to have you join us for our latest hands-on webinar, CDP for B2B use cases. We are very excited to have you here, and a little housekeeping before we get started. There in your console here for GoToWebinar, you'll see a section where you can ask any questions. So if you have any questions, need any clarification through the presentation, go ahead and drop your questions in, and we will get to as many as we can at the end. And there are also two handouts for you, two different PDFs. One is a CDP readiness guide, so if you're considering getting a customer data platform, this can help you make sure you're prepared for that. And then the second one is a dummies guide that we wrote about enterprise customer data platforms. So it's a really great overview of all the basics of customer data platforms, which we'll go into a little bit here this morning. We're good. But yeah, so those are there for you to download. Go ahead and do that. But right now, I would like to introduce Amit, who is our Director of Solution Engineering, who's with us this morning. He has 14 years experience building and leading pre-sales and post-sales teams. His experience includes architecture and deployment of complex enterprise initiatives, such as multi-channel data warehouses, customer data platforms, which we'll be talking about today, and SPA planning systems. I don't even know what that is. And then also cloud migration. So we're hoping to give you a great overview of customer data platforms today and how a customer data platform can help B2B companies personalize their marketing and customer journeys, and then how that could also help prevent churn and like do cross-sells and upsells and using predictive lead scoring. So we're just going to get right on into it. So good morning.
Laura. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for attending today's session. So I'll go ahead and get started right away. So today's webinar will be more of an overview session of the Treasure Data platform and its advantages for the B2B business. So this should be a relatively short webinar compared to the previous ones that we've had, because there's not going to be a lot of hands-on exercises on this one. But it's still going to be just as informative, I think, because we're going to focus on the B2B businesses. Great. So let's go ahead and get started. So I want to get started with an overview of the customer data platform initially. And so let's focus on what is a data platform for a couple of minutes. I will use the Gartner definition here. A customer data platform is essentially a marketer-controlled integrated customer database that can support coordinated programs across multiple channels. Now that's definitely a mouthful. But let's break down that phrase a little bit, right? So what that means is that the CDP enables, primarily the bottom line is the CDP enables omnichannel personalization. Now I will talk a little more about that in a minute, but the term CDP didn't really exist till 2013, and the CDP market didn't really gain momentum till 2016. That does not mean that the companies weren't really trying to implement some parts of the functionality that a CDP provides by themselves. However, the customer data platform as an end-to-end capability, all the way from data unification to data unification of your first, second, and third-party data to data processing in the form of ID unification, or even data stitching, and the ability for marketers to segment and activate omnichannel campaigns in one tool or application is what the CDP enables. So if you think about it, it's an end-to-end platform for everything we just discussed. The CDP is primarily owned and operated by the marketing organization, and sometimes with the help of IT for complex processes, of course. But the great part is data doesn't have to be unwieldy or scary, and the CDP can totally enable marketing teams to gain insight and segment better. And use UI-based segmentation as well as visualization tools for better personalization of messaging. In addition to that, the CDP also provides the capability of personalization across channels, and those channels can be social, email, ads, or any other channel of your choice. So if you look, in summary, like CDPs really help you do a lot of the end-to-end unified marketing use cases that have been disparate for so many years. Okay. So focusing on the B2B challenge, right? So there are many buyers and longer cycles, as we can see in the screen. So today's discussion will primarily be focused on the need for a CDP in the B2B industry and how treasure data helps our B2B customers. So let's first start with understanding the challenges that sellers face in this industry. So in the B2B market, the sales cycles usually are long and complicated, and one of the key trends that has been amplified over the years is that the decision to procure goods or services has become more of a decision by committee, with multiple folks involved in the buying committee, and the potential for detractors as well as derailment of any deal is incredibly high just because there's so many cooks in the kitchen. So no matter how good your product is or how cost effective your product is, it's sometimes near impossible to cater to all individuals in the buying committee unless we understand the drivers and the viewpoints which are formed by all of those different users, right? So those viewpoints are formed based on data, right? So the ability for us to understand the data consumption of each of these buyers in the committee is extremely important. And as the number of buyers with an opinion increases, so does uncertainty, indecision, and ultimately the time to execute, right? And one of our key goals definitely should not only be to close deals, but also to expedite and efficiently close deals with a shorter time frame. The example diagram in this case showcases 5 different departments involved in the sales process. I mean, this is just an example, but the breadth of the people here is quite interesting. You have the CXO's organization, the finance organization, the marketing, the project, the IT teams involved, and so you can see the complexity and the disparity of the people involved, and therefore the complexity of catering to all of these different people. So now the buying cycle can actually be divided into 4 different phases. The first phase is awareness. And so in this phase, and this is in most cases the initial phase, is the phase in which the buyers come into contact with your product and have initial touch points. So for example, let's say a Gartner quadrant report that you published, or an organic search on your product which yields the right results based on your blogs and the content that you have out there, or even a targeted ad that you may have placed, let's say on a social channel, for example. So that's the first phase. And then the next phase is interest. And so in the interest phase, based on your market differentiating content and the alignment to buyer needs, different parts of their organization start aligning to the key features of your product, right? This leads to the next phase, which is the desire phase. And in the desire phase, the buyer interest is peaked after discussions with your team, and maybe you might have given them a demo of your product, or even a pilot or a POC with the customer. That has definitely led to increased desire and alignment with your product. And then finally, the last step, after all of these different touch points and different phases, is the actual action phase, where the buyer committee is finally ready to be your customer, and therefore are satisfied with the product, and identified your product as the best fit, as well as overall the best product to go with in the future, right? So you can see complexity in touch points, complexity in phases, and all of these need a solution for you to navigate through, and that's where the CDP comes in. I will also touch a little bit upon the different touch points and different channels, of course, involved in the touch points. So each buyer in the so-called committee will have their own viewpoint based on the data consumption to reach a buying decision. And therefore, these data consumption channels need to be identified, as well as you need to ensure that the most accurate and insightful information is available to the buyer about your product, right? So that's very important, that you have the content out and the product identifies or makes their way to that product. And so the CDP here provides insight on user intent as well as behavior through multiple ways. This can be through user activity with your app or website. So let's say you have an app or a website which is where a buyer, a potential buyer or a lead is actually interacting with. The CDP helps you identify the browsing pattern as well as identify the different touch points they've had with your endpoints. And then the second one is also through intent enrichment through third parties. So the CDP can enrich the content you have as first party with third party information from, let's say, a partner of Treasure Data who provides intent for customers across the web, not just your endpoints, but across other endpoints in the web. And therefore, you have a fuller picture of your customer. So that's one of the key advantages of Treasure Data. Where we have partnerships with leading vendors out there, and so we will be able to provide intent enrichment along with your first party information to make a better decision or better segmentation of your customers. Great. So I just wanted to put this slide up here in terms of a CMO survey for 2017 that was conducted last year, and so it did highlight a key priority set of priorities for buyers in today's market. And the top three of these priorities being superior product quality, of course, excellent service, and a trusting relationship with the server. And so in order to succeed in your need to have a complete mastery of customer, so in order to succeed, you do need to have like full mastery of customer and prospect data, and also deep insight into that data set in order to serve your customer better, right? For example, you need to understand the personas of the buying committee by their browsing patterns on your website, or by their interaction with your, let's say, ads or personalized messages that you may have sent to them via, let's say, email. That's an option, right? So the customer data platform comes into play here and provides the ability to unify all that customer data behavior, all that customer behavior actually across all of those channels. And that can be their interaction with the ads, their browsing through your websites, or even manual interaction with your call center, for example, is also, all of that can be unified into a single customer profile. And that profile can give you 360-degree view of your customer, either by individual customer, or by an account, or by opportunity, or even lead if you want to do that. So right off the bat, the CDP drives deep understanding and insight of your customer's data by different dimensions. So let's look at the CDP foundation layer so we can understand the value drivers better. Great. So the Treasure Data platform provides that complete end-to-end solution that can help B2B businesses succeed in today's buyer environment. So first, the Treasure Data CDP provides the capability to unify your first-party data, and that data can be across web, mobile, CRM data, offline data, such as, let's say, analysis done in a local server that can also help enrich metrics about your customers. You can also then enrich your first-party data with second and third-party data like we discussed. For example, intent enrichment, for example, other segments that DMPs may have on your users, which can be used to enrich your first-party data. And Treasure Data, of course, is built for scale and built for enterprise customers, and therefore can provide deep insight and flexibility in the modeling that is necessary for your customer. So not just ingestion, but the actual modeling of that customer on the platform is built for scale and built for volume. So our audience solution can help you create segments by either individual users or even by accounts, or any other grouping that you consider appropriate for your data. It could be specific grouping by industry, for example, that might be important to you. So different groupings are definitely possible within Treasure Data, and we think that's definitely a market differentiator for us. And we think providing this flexibility is key for adapting the features of the CDP to the B2B market, and therefore help our B2B customers. So as an example, your business is let's say a SaaS solution with both enterprise and SMB customers. So you can create models and segments that focus on differing needs of these two types of customers, such as focusing on freemium to paid conversion for SMBs, whereas you might want to focus on cross-sell and penetration within your enterprise customers. So those different types of segmentation possibilities are handled easily within the Treasure Data CDP, depending on the customer type. So that's just an example of what you could do with the Treasure Data CDP. Another example would be if you would like to understand trends, for example, for user activity tied to accounts, and then personalize your content accordingly. Let's say you see a sudden increase from Treasure Data employees coming to your website and reviewing your content. These insights are made available almost real time in the CDP for review and action. And that action can be maybe personalizing the web experience of all Treasure Data employees on your website to match browsing patterns. Everybody is looking at the Gartner quadrant. So maybe if somebody from Treasure Data comes in onto your website, you want to have the Gartner quadrant up front and center so that it's easier for consumption and it's a better user experience for all Treasure Data employees on your website. That's just an example.
We could probably use, we have other webinars on this, we could use workflow to set up some automatic triggers that would maybe trigger like Google Ads or something.
Triggering, right? So workflow, as Laura mentioned, is our process orchestration mechanism. And using the process orchestration mechanism, you can handle event-based segmentation or event-based activation as well. So you can easily trigger events and you can create processes within Treasure Data using Treasure Workflow to activate against certain behavior. That's great.
I just like that it's automatic, and just because from the previous webinars we've done on workflow, which are available, everybody, go check out our website. That you can automate so much, and then it takes like so much heavy lifting off of your data team.
Exactly, and that's a key differentiator for us. You know, a CDP is not just a segmentation and activation tool; it's also a process orchestration tool to get your data in one place, do your stitching, do your events, and then activate that data. So we definitely love our workflow here.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Okay, so let's move on to some typical B2B customer use cases where Treasure Data or even a CDP can be used. So we broadly categorize our use cases into three key areas. The first one is know your customer better. The second one is engage with your customers better, and third is measuring your customers better. So in the first section, the focus is on a few key things. So let's talk about unifying your data, mapping customer journeys, generating insights, and questions such as how is your business doing? What are the most popular parts of your product that are driving customer interest? How can I drive cross-sell, upsell opportunities? How can I keep my existing customers happy? Those are the kind of questions that you would answer with your in the know your customer better section. And this applies both to B2C as well as B2B customers. And the Treasure Data functionality is available to handle both kind of scenarios easily and flexibly. So in the next logical step, now that you have unified your data and empowered your data and created your audiences the way you want to, either at account level, opportunity level, and now that you're armed with your insights, it's time to engage with your customers. And engagement for B2B businesses can be at two levels. So it can be at an account level or it can be at an individual employee level as well. So we provide the ability to view your audiences through both of these lenses. So firmographic details include business level attributes such as company size, location, industry, and many more, right? So these attributes can be combined with individual behavioral data for each customer or each employee of that account. And we can power both personalize, and with the power of both, we can personalize omnichannel campaigns within the platform, focused not only on individuals, but maybe all individuals from that account. So both of those are possible within Treasure Data. So in the measurement section, the Treasure Data CDP provides the capability of measurement of, let's say, CLTV of a user. And that's just an example, right? There are any number of measurements and any number of analyses that you can create within Treasure Data, but something that comes out of the box, for example, is CLTV measurement. Attribution is something that comes out of the box with our templates, like Laura mentioned, workflow. Workflow is used as a template provider for us to build attribution models. And we can also provide flexible cohort analysis as another example within the platform using either treasure reporting, which is our reporting tool embedded within Treasure Data, or you can utilize your reporting tool of choice. Could be Tableau, could be Chart.io, could be any other tool out there. We are happy to connect and integrate with your tools. Great. This slide primarily talks about the flexible modeling capabilities within Treasure Data. So enterprise marketing departments usually have several tools in use, and these can be CRM systems, billing systems, in-house databases, DSPs, DMPs. Each of those systems, they generate a lot of data that is usually not shared or activated across different products. And so they're not unified, essentially. The data is siloed. And so Treasure Data provides that capability for unification. And then we talked about ID stitching with workflow and visualization of that data either at user, account, lead, opportunity level in various different slices and dices, right? So with our big data engine, so Treasure Data is built upon a big data engine. We can provide on-demand scaling to meet all enterprise needs. And just as an example, our biggest customer, one of our biggest customers, brings in about 600 billion rows of data every month, right? And so that's the volume and the scale at which we operate, and where we activate insights across that level of data almost on a monthly basis.
And that's just one customer.
That's just one customer bringing
Wow.
data onto the platform, right?
Great.
One of many. And so we have a lot of customers bringing or generating a lot of data and not knowing what to do with it. So that's where Treasure Data comes in, unifying all of that together and activating that for marketing purposes. Great. So let's move on to our unlimited data and customer profile screen. So right here, what I'm talking about in the screen is because we have the ability to provide unlimited scale, there are some really cool things that are possible. And so we provide the ability for accurate attribution, for example, because you now have access to granular information on the platform in addition to all historical information. There is no limit on the amount of historical information you can keep in the platform. So that information could be just maybe the past couple of months, but there is no restrictions. It could be the past 2 years or 5 years. Because we are a big data platform, we are able to retain a lot of historical information in one place. And then therefore, your probabilistic match rates will also be higher because your data has bigger history, is more rich, and because we can match across all of that historical data points. So due to that deep understanding of customer behavior, we can now also personalize the user experience better across various different channels, and that channel could be social. Some customers, activate across social because social might be the best channel that has been attributed as the most successful channel for them. Others might think email is a better channel, so we allow that. Or even ads, programmatic ads out there can also be activated through the Treasure Data platform. So various different options. Great. Finally, let's talk about a couple of things that are an absolute must in today's customer data platforms. The first one is automation, and then the second is, of course, artificial intelligence. So I'm definitely not going to lose track of AI. AI is a buzzword, I know, but AI is also something we deeply believe in and which we've integrated and activated within our platform at every phase. So first I'll hit upon automation though. So I think we discussed a little bit of the automation when we talked about workflow. But Treasure Data does have the capability to provide end-to-end process orchestration all the way from ingestion to audience building. So as an example, we have a Salesforce instance from which you're getting, let's say, users, accounts, opportunities, leads, and so on. And you also have a billing system that records your orders. And you also have a website that's streaming data into the platform, and that data needs to be stitched with all of these other offline sources that you brought data in from. And maybe you also have like a homegrown database that's providing you some internal analysis of your data set. Maybe a certain department is creating a few metrics that need to be enriched to your overall data, overall profile of your customer. And so the tool of choice here would be Treasure Workflow. So it provides the ability to orchestrate all of these inputs in an intelligent, sequenced manner, where you bring in data, let's say in a scheduled manner from your offline systems, and then tie in your online data sources such as your websites to this offline data, and then finally activate all of that towards audience building. And that audience building is obviously on the CDP side of the house, where you are now generating a customer 360 profile. So on the left hand side of the screen, you see the customer 360 profile that is being generated because we linked all of these profiles together. And this view can be at an account level, or this view can be at an individual user level as well. And stitched across, the other key thing I forgot to mention is the ability to integrate campaigns that have already been activated from Treasure Data. So if you look on the 3 campaigns that we've identified here are a couple of retargeting campaigns and also some summer sale campaign that was targeted out. So essentially, Treasure Data automatically ties your data points or your user interactions, your customer interactions, to campaigns that have already been activated from Treasure Data. So you know again the user behavior against each campaign. So for example, against the retargeting campaign, what did Teresa here do, right? Or the let's say you have a campaign for a summer sale or a 25% discount for people. You want to know if those folks actually came to the website because of that campaign. That can be tied here in the customer 360 screen.
And I think that's really cool. I love this part because then you can also set up triggers again in workflow to resegment individuals or accounts based on actions that they take. So it's like, hey, if somebody clicked on this ad for 4th of July but didn't convert, then we can trigger something else, right?
Exactly. So you now have a segment of people who you can now understand what they've done previously based on campaigns you've activated towards them and the actions they've taken. If the action is not the one that you wanted, maybe you now want to use a further campaign, a retargeting campaign, to target them again with something which is more, which can entice them more because they're that much farther in your funnel, in your journey.
And you have that much more information, so you have that much more personalized.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
This is where the power of the customer data platform comes to the fore. Right? Great. So we talked about the process orchestration or the automation part. Let's touch a little bit upon the AI part of what Treasure Data brings to the deal. So now the AI capabilities are amazing in terms of the ability to provide. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
That's okay. We're talking about a lot. There's a lot of different facets.
Exactly. So Treasure Data does provide AI capabilities, and the one I'd really like to highlight here is the predictive customer scoring. So customer scoring has been built on top of HiveMall. HiveMall is an open source Apache framework machine learning library. And this is actually invented within Treasure Data, and we open sourced it out to the open source community. And so with the predictive customer scoring feature, you don't really need to know a lot of machine learning. So what we've done is we've built an application on top of the machine learning, which can be easily consumed by even the marketing folks. And I'll showcase an example of that in the next slide. But essentially what it does is it scores your customers in various different ways, and you decide the way you want to score your customers. You might want to score your customers for churn affinity, for example, or upsell or cross-sell potential, or you might want to customize, or you might want to categorize customers into a high value set of customers, or a customer focused on a certain industry, and you want to upsell or cross-sell in that industry. So there's various different ways you can use predictive customer scoring. So another example would be you may want to target customers who are likely to churn, and based on our model, target them with a specialized campaign that will hopefully prevent churn. So let's look at how our churn model is created. So like I said, the predictive customer scoring can be built out of the box, and the churn model so what the churn model does is you need to identify a segment for customers that have already churned. And once you've done that, what the model does is based on the attributes of the customers who've already churned, the model identifies the attributes and the quantitative columns that can be considered most relevant to identify other customers that could potentially churn in the entire audience. So a small set of churned, say a segment of churned customers helps you identify churn across all customers, right? So that we think is key. And the PCS model then categorizes all your customers in the audience based on that model into 4 categories. The first one is unlikely to churn, marginally likely to churn, possibly likely to churn, and the final one, which is the highly likely to churn segment, is probably the one that you want to focus on. That does not mean that's the only segment you can focus on. Let's say you want to focus both on the likely, the possibly likely and the likely to churn segments. So you can do that as well. And you can create an activation for any of these segments that the predictive model helps you create, and then activate, let's say, a marketing campaign to prevent churn based on the predictive model that has been built within Treasure Data. And this is just an example for churn, but you could build an example, similar example, where you identify existing customers who've upsold, and then based on those customers, identify everybody else in the audience who could potentially upsell, who you could potentially upsell to. So those are the key things, I think, from a B2B customer that would be important and would be relevant with the Treasure Data platform. Right. The final point that I'd like to touch upon, which I didn't really have time to build a slide on, but what else are we working on, right? So we are working on a more detailed view of customers. So the 360 view that we have, we are building on even more content and even more details for B2B customers by accounts, and maybe switch also to maybe by leads. So that's one thing that we are working on, a more detailed view in the customer 360 screen for our customers. The second thing we are working on are partnerships with third-party companies for intent enrichment. So intent enrichment is something that is very exciting to us, to make sure that our customers understand not just their customers on their endpoints, but their customers on other browsing endpoints as well. And we think partnerships with intent-focused companies will be really helpful there. And then the third thing we are working on is automatic enrichment based on IP addresses. So based on IP addresses, we can identify the company or the area that a person is coming from, and focus on providing out-of-the-box intelligence on how to activate or market, or how to provide content affinity to those kind of customers. So those are some of the key things that we are currently working on, and which I'm really excited, hopefully in the next few months to be part and parcel of the platform.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks, Amit. We definitely have time for some Q&A. Here we go. So in your GoToWebinar interface, go ahead and ask any questions that you have. We've had a couple come in already, and we'll get to as many as we can. Also, just wanted to re-point out in your control panel as well, there's also a handout section, and we have 2 things for you today. We have a white paper on CDP readiness. So if you're considering getting a customer data platform, this could help you get prepared for that and sort of figure out what you need when you're evaluating vendors. And then the other one is Enterprise Customer Data Platforms for Dummies, which we wrote, and has some really awesome basic information, just so you have a good base understanding when you're starting to look for CDPs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, great. Got a couple questions here. So have CDPs been historically B2C focused? Is B2B a new application for customer data platforms?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely say that B2C has been where the roots of the customer data platform lie. We've seen a lot of customers who are focused on B2C use cases, but we definitely have customers who are focused on B2B use cases as well. And the market for B2B requirements for the CDP is definitely something that is picking up quite rapidly. And a lot of customers, a lot of companies are actually showing interest in unifying their data for activation, not only at a user level, but also at, understanding other companies. How can we sell across companies? Just because of the buyer committee concept that I talked about. Mm-hmm. There's so many people out there who you want to make sure your content aligns to.
Makes sense. Great. Another question here. How are customer data platforms affected by GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulations that went into effect in Europe?
Yeah, that's a great question. GDPR is relevant not only for a customer data platform, but for any data platform that deals with customer data. Treasure Data is identified as a processor in this situation. And we have made all efforts to make sure we are compliant with GDPR as a processor. And in addition to that, what we've done is we've created a couple of key innovations. One of them is on our tracking tag management side, where we've made sure that that we're not tracking PII by default. That's an option for PII activation based on user agreement. So that's the first thing that we've done. And then the second thing we've done is we have out-of-the-box workflows that we've built to cater to all of the different GDPR requirements, such as the requirement to inform users of the information that you have on that user, or the requirement to update or delete information if required. So we have out-of-the-box workflows that we've built that can be deployed by our customers quite easily, and I'd say would effectively handle a lot of their GDPR requirements.
And if you're interested in learning more about GDPR, because even though it is just Europe right now, California is introducing a new law that will be actually more stringent than GDPR. But we have a lot of information and research specifically for marketers on our website. So if you just go to treasuredata.com, it's right there on the homepage. A lot of resources for you. So yeah, we'll go with that. And then I think we got time for like one more question. What are current key pain points that you see being solved with a customer data platform?
So that's a great question again. So one of the, I think insight is a word which is used quite a bit, but in terms of a CDP, right? CDP really digs deep into providing insight into your data, because your data is not siloed and disparate anymore. And I'll define those two key terms. So siloed basically means that it's sitting in various different systems, and disparate actually means that the data points have not been connected together, right? And so CDP actually solves for both of those use cases. So not just siloed data, but also solving for disparate data. And so that's one key advantage, getting insight into your data. And then the second key pain point that CDP can solve in the B2B concept is by providing different levers of viewing your audiences. That lever can be at account level, at opportunity, or even at consumer level, right? And so those levers, I think, are really important in solving B2B pain points in terms of understanding their customers and activating to their customers better.
Cool. That's great. Okay, one last question before we let everybody go. Last one, I promise. So is the customer data platform only for marketers? We've talked a lot about marketing organizations so far.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, so the CDP is primarily used by the marketing organization, but the Treasure Data CDP, if you think about just the Treasure Data CDP, we do have our data platform which comes with the customer data platform and has been utilized by the analysts, has been utilized by data scientists to not only access data, but to create insight. And that insight doesn't only have to be towards the marketing organization. That insight can be maybe for product analytics, if you want to create insight for product analytics, or even business analytics. A single point of truth helps everybody in the organization, not just the marketing team. Mm-hmm. So the CDP provides that single point of truth. Even though a lot of our R&D has gone into providing applications and screens towards the marketing org, we also have a data platform that can be utilized across your business.
So you're, by using the Treasure Data customer data platform, like let's say internal like IT or data scientists, can they access the raw data?
Absolutely.
Like maybe you don't want your marketers messing with that, but the IT could get in there?
Yeah, that's a great point, right? I mean, you want to have the right personas accessing the right data for sure, but yes, the IT teams can definitely access the raw data, because we do not expire data. We do not provide limits on the amount of data that can be brought onto the platform. And we also provide the ability to analyze that data either via SQL or through, let's say, data science tools if you want to. And therefore, it's definitely multifunctional.
That's great. But I know for a marketer like me, I appreciate the more drag and drop.
There
No
you go.
sequel for me, please.
And that's a lot of our R&D right there, you know.
Well, great. So we are out of time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for your great questions. Again, check out the handouts we have attached here, and please just watch this space. We're going to have more of these hands-on webinars where we're exploring different aspects of customer data platforms in the future. So I just want to say thanks so much to Admit for your time and expertise.
It's been great. I'd love to do more of these.
Great. I'm going to hold you to that. So we're going to let everybody go. Thank you so much. And if you have any further questions, please go ahead, head to our website. We would be happy to customize a demo for your unique organization. We understand that everybody's data problems are different. And our team, we pride ourselves on being able to customize demos for what you need if you would like to check this out closely. But yeah, reach out. Contact us if you have more questions, and we'll see you again at another hands-on webinar. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.